Hey everybody, so last night I saw Jexi, directed by John Lucas and Scott Moore, starring Adam Devine, Rose Byrne, Alexandra Shipp, Kid Cudi, Michael Pena, Ron Funches, and Wanda Sykes. This is a movie where Adam Devine makes his phone come. Like, his phone has an orgasm in this movie. And it is easily the most uncomfortable thing I've seen in theaters all year. Jexi is a movie that has a chance to make witty comment about society, but completely flubs it. This is the kind of movie that just stinks. You know it's a bad sign when you can't find any reviews for that movie online. Studios have embargoes in place to keep reviews from hitting websites and Google anywhere from 2 weeks in advance from the movie's release. For good movies such as possibly Star Wars, Avengers Endgame, that'll be a 2 week embargo. Or for bad movies, the latest date, as far as I know, is midnight on the Wednesday before your movie is supposed to come out. So the reviews for Jexi should have been posted online at midnight this morning, Thursday. There was not a single review that I can find online on either Rotten Tomatoes or IMDb. If you look at Rotten Tomatoes, it currently has a 77 with 9 reviews audience. There is no critic score. There is not many audience scores to go off of for this movie. IMDb also does not have a single review for this movie out yet, which is not a good sign. My biggest problem with this movie is the way that it's shot. Yes, it is in focus, it's lit well, and has decent colorization, but the camera is constantly zooming in or moving, left or right, up and down, in a weird gyroscope way, much like The Office is filmed in a mockumentary style. But it simply does not feel natural when it's done on The Office. It feels natural. It feels like the camera is supposed to be doing that. In this movie, it is clearly all done in post-production. They are not on scene actually moving that camera. They are going into their editing software and moving the image on their own, zooming in, zooming out. And you get used to it. I stopped noticing it, but the first 20 minutes of this movie, it was the only thing I could focus on. And it's really, really off-putting and bad. And easily 25% of this entire movie is just a fucking montage. There's at least 7 throughout the entire movie, and yes, I kept track of every single one of them. And it's just unfunny. There's a few good jokes, but most of it either comes off as creepy or just not funny. And 90% of the jokes and throughout this entire movie are just dead on arrival. As for the cast, Devine does the same shtick he always does. Shipp just seems uninterested. Pena is just fucking weird, and honestly, he needs to fire his agent that keeps getting him these shitty roles. And Rose Byrne is just a phone. It's a voice role. It's Siri. That's really all it is. I think this movie could have been decent. I think there's a story there if you follow the commentary that it starts out with. There's an angle to write the story about a phone ruining a guy's life. You can make a statement about how this generation is addicted to their phones, but this movie just doesn't. It resorts to dick jokes and a terrible story. I mean, Christ, the whole thing is supposed to be about how this phone ruins his life, but it only gets him fired by sending his dick pics with no realization for Devine that that's what actually happened. He just thinks he got high and did it. Drains his bank account and impromptuly encourages him to break up with his girlfriend, Alexandra Shipp. That's it. The entire problem is solved in about 5 minutes in the last act, and the other hour and 25 minutes is just wasted, leading to nowhere. If I'm being honest, I did not hate this movie. I kind of liked it, actually. It's not great, but it's also not terrible. Though, like I said, it's the same shtick, it's the same jokes you're going to see from Adam Devine and everything that he's in. But I still like the guy, and I like his charisma, and I don't know, maybe there's just something that I like about the story, that I think it could be a good angle. It's just, this movie is not a pile of dog shit. I don't think it's terrible. I don't think it's great. It's gonna end up in the middle of the road with all the other movies I've seen this year. I don't know how to say it. There's just something about this movie that I don't think is totally terrible about it. And for that, I will give Jexi a 5.4 out of 10.